The intention of the federal government to bring the issue of corruption to conclusion, I think, is normal, because the regime should be winding up by mid of next year. And then we have been on this this issue for a long time, and we don't seem to be having much traction. So, but the issue is, how is it carried out? How do we get those who are on trial tried within the remaining period, so that at least we can move forward? And we remember that we have a tag on us, which we are yet to get out, to show that this country, businesses can be done without corruption. So it's a big tag that we need to work towards to eliminate it or minimize.
I hear you when you say it's a big tag we're trying to remove, but I would like you to speak specifically to the timing. We're seeing that this was first signed in July on the 25th, and then now the implementation is taking place in October, last week, after the Federal High Court held the judgment. And now we're going into elections in April. If you look at the time lag there, for me, would you say it's something of government trying to get some quick wins in so that they can push that in for campaigns?
Well, the election is taken up in February, and then we just have barely 90 days to it. The issue of corruption has been, a lot of hype has been put on it, and honestly, the ongoing trials, they are worrisome, and something had to be done to,
So for you, the timing is perfect?
Well, the timing, there cannot be an appropriate time or inappropriate time to fight corruption, because the truth of it is that if there is no moral hazard in people helping themselves with the resources of the state, you create incentive for future leaders to continue in the same realm. So fighting or working to minimize corruption in the society should be a continuous exercise, and it should not be limited to either the present regime or even the opposition that is trying to come in. It should also be, they should have an agenda for it. And if they have a superior agenda for curbing corruption, then the nation will have moved forward. And it should really be an issue in the build-up to the election. We want to know, are we going to continue to be in a nation where a few people can sit down and share so much and go away with it without any consequences? It is not for this generation. We are saying we want assets, roads, infrastructure here and there. If the system allows anybody to take anything and just go away and there are no consequences, within the ambit of the law must be respected. We cannot move forward. And we are getting to a stage, as a nation where in 10, 20 years' time, we should be comparing ourselves with less endowed African countries. Can we compare the level of infrastructure of our country with those less endowed countries? We are blessed with oil. If we don't use it to put critical infrastructure in place, then we have challenges as a nation. So I think there is no appropriate time, and there can't be an inappropriate time to fight corruption. It should be a continuous program by every government that comes in.
I hear you. I hear you when you say it's a continuous process. But I'm looking here. I want to take us back now and look specifically at the travel ban per se. You know, we've had different quarters. In fact, this has been one of the mostly contested parts of this implementation, where they're talking about violation of human rights based on this. What's your take on this?
Well, the travel ban, I believe it should be on one-on-one basis. I also believe that some of those people who are on trial, their passport is already in court, and of course, the issue really, when you have a large number, like 50, it also raises a lot of, what is this for? Is it a political vendetta? And the question of political vendetta should also be cleared, because the opposition that were in power 4 years ago, and definitely it can only be those who are in power that can be tried for corruption, which implies those who are in power now today can also be tried in future. So it's a cycle. So because the way we do it is what is important. I'm worried by the large number. I believe that it should be on case-by-case basis. I also believe that there are some people whose travel documents are already in court, but we also need a speedy closure of all these outstanding issues so that we can move forward as a nation.
But what has been the primary cause of the delay in this? Do we need to go as far as an executive order to get cases to reach their normal conclusion?
Well, the question is with our judiciary. The question is with our law. Our law, I'm not a lawyer, but I know that a law indicates that if you allege somebody stole something, you have to show that he actually took it physically. Whereas in some parts of the world, once you are accused of corruption, you have to prove that your income, all your resources can be justified by what you own. If you cannot justify what you own based on your earnings, then you can be liable. But I know the case of our law, you have to prove that he actually put his hand. So maybe we also need some of this discourse so that we can actually fine-tune our law. We are creating so many billionaires in our country. Excellent. How are they making it? People in government, I mean, in fact, in all facets of our lives, how are you trying to ensure that, I mean, people deal honestly so that we can actually attract foreigners into the country, so that we invest in our country?
But as far as executive orders go, this is not just the first one. So there's also the Executive Order 8, which is also going to kick off in some time now. We're seeing it's the Voluntary Offshore Assets Regularization Scheme. What do you make of this second one?
Well, that has to do with offshore assets and the taxes and then disclosures and all the rest. I think the key element is that it's not only in Nigeria that people have offshore accounts to minimize their tax liability. I think the rule has to be well split out so that resources of our country are not taken off, and it has to be clearly differentiated. If I have assets abroad that is earning, that is producing, I'm supposed to pay some tax there. So if I'm bringing the assets, the income back to Nigeria, then we must avoid double taxation. I think these are areas where we need to clearly demarcate so that we don't create disincentive for people to invest in our country. And it is a thing that is worrisome too. But it is also clear that we have seen evidences of so many Nigerians taking Nigerian assets abroad and then not bringing it in. And we need to also tighten all these rules so that we are fair to all parties involved. You earn income abroad, you should be able to declare it. If you have paid tax there, you don't need to pay tax here. And then, of course, whatever you need to pay. So it has to be clearly spelled out.